Syria, a lot has been read, a lot has been said. And right now I'm looking at all the international platforms talking about possible chemical attacks being done in Syria by Assad after he claimed victory and after he was able to oust not just ISIS, but also the foreign occupations and the foreign nations who were trying to infiltrate the infrastructure of the homeland of Assad. So the simple question that a lot of journalists have been asking everybody is that if Assad really wanted to use chemical attack and chemical weapons on his own people, why would he do so after claiming victory? This is a common sense, simple, very important question that just does not make sense in the entire fiasco. What we're seeing is invasion of US, invasion of UK, invasion of France into a foreign land under the false flag claim that Assad has chemical weapons. There is, in the prodromal event of this invasion, this new invasion, I would say an acute on chronic invasion syndrome that US and the NATO forces unfortunately suffer. They have a serious problem. They suffer, it's a disease. The US forces, the NATO forces, they suffer from the syndrome of invasion. And this is something that goes into remission and then it relapses. So you see remissions and then you see relapses. You see one relapse, it calms down, and then all of a sudden there's another invasion, or there's another invasion in the same land on totally different grounds, on totally false grounds that have no credibility to them. So the simple question that I ask, not just the US policymakers, but also the NATO policymakers, the parliamentarians in UK, parliamentarians in France, I ask their policymakers that why would the regime of Assad gas its own people after conquering their homeland back from foreign invasions? Why would he do that? There was absolutely no need to do it. So why would he now? And where is the evidence? You are staging another false flag invasion. You are again telling the world so many lies, just like you did when you invaded Iraq, just like you did when you invaded Afghanistan. Look at Afghanistan where it's at right now. What's going on over there? Look at the poverty indicators of Afghanistan. Look at the amount of terrorism going on in Pakistan. Look at the amount of destabilization there is right now in Afghanistan, in Iraq. Where is the normalcy? Where is the democracy? Where are those promises, those fake promises of democracy, of liberty, of freedom that you said you were going to deliver to these nations? Look at Sisi. Who is Sisi? The head of Egypt, he's your dummy. Look at Ghani, he's your dummy. He does what you want him to do. This is not democracy. You're fooling the masses. You're fooling the masses of these nations, telling them, hey, we come here, democracy in our hands. We're going to invade your lands. We're going to get rid of the current regimes. We're going to orchestrate an election. And then we're going to make sure that the new leader is of your choice. But guess what? It never happens. You come, you invade, you destroy everything, you kill children, you displace them from their homes, you send them to refugee camps, you send them to die in capsized boats off the shores of Europe. You make them live in debilitated, unkept United Nations camps. And then you say that you've delivered freedom. An acute on chronic syndrome of US, UK, and France invasion into Syria. When we thought that we were almost on the verge of achieving peace, how come all of a sudden the whole violent game has resurrected. And one of the main things that we're talking about over here is the war profiteering syndrome, the military-industrial complex. I think that is playing a key element and a key role in pushing these governments into restaging another invasion in Syria. Why do I say that? Because this invasion is happening in the aftermath of the showcase of Russian prowess in the military-industrial complex. Look at it from a corporate perspective. Military-industrial complex is a corporation. It is a trade. It is an industry. Now it has competition. That competition is coming from Russia. Where are they fighting the proxy war with Russia? They're fighting this proxy war with Russia in Syria. Who's getting killed in this proxy war? Not the Russians, not the Americans, not the British, not the French, but the Syrian kids. They are the ones who are getting killed. They are the collateral damage. They are the carnage being killed to profit this industry, to profit this corporation. And since the European and the US military-industrial complex now has new competition, so that all the smaller countries are now running to Russia to buy weapons from Russia instead of the European countries, instead of American, forces. Now they have a problem. Their profits are going down. Their deals are going down. Their business is going down. So they have to figure out a way to defeat the competition. They have to figure out a way to get rid of the competition. And the best way to eliminate this competition is by framing your competition into a diplomatic embargo first, which they tried to do through that event that happened, where out of the blue, a Russian diplomat gets gassed, and the blame is all put on Russia. It is said that Russia did it itself, out of the blue, and chemicals were used. And so now Russia has chemical weapons. And since Russia is collaborating with Assad, Assad should have chemical weapons too. And then Assad would, out of the blue, after winning over all the lost territories, gas its people, out of the blue. Why would he do that? Is he retarded? Do you think the people are retarded? Do you think the world is retarded? Why do you think people are still retarded? They already know what you did in Iraq. Your leaders who participated in the Iraq war have stood up on international platforms and they have confessed that they committed war crimes, that they made a mistake, that Iraq was a mistake. There were no chemical weapons of mass destruction. They shouldn't have invaded Iraq. Donald Trump himself ran his campaign, election campaign, on the basis of this mistake that Obama did, this mistake that his opponents made, that they supported the Iraq war, while he said that he never supported the Iraq war. He also said that he never supported the Syrian invasion and he would try to de-escalate or decelerate the invasion, this whole acute and chronic invasion syndrome that these nations are suffering from, because unfortunately their economies are dependent upon war profiteering. Unfortunately, their economies are dependent on the killings of children, on the displacement of children and infants from their homes. This is how bad the situation is. So my recommendation to all these governments is to sit down and recall all the tapes that the previous leaders have reiterated in the past, that they have filmed in the past, and go through each and every word that the previous leaders have mentioned before they invaded Iraq, before they invaded Afghanistan, even before the first time Syria was invaded. And where is the humanity? Where is the conscience of US? Where is the conscience and the humanity of UK? Where is the conscience and humanity of France when it comes to Burma, when it comes to Kashmir, when it comes to Gaza? Why aren't they invading Gaza? Why aren't they invading Burma? Why aren't they invading India? If humanity and conscience is the driving force that is forcing these three nations to invade Syria again, they want to liberate the Syrians. They want to save the Syrians from the chemical weapons of Assad. Where is your humanity? Where is your conscience when Kashmiris are concerned, when Palestinians are concerned, when Rohingyas are concerned? Where does your humanity go? Where does your conscience go? What, I mean, just tell us. You're recalling. I was listening to the Prime Minister of UK's debate in the Parliament, and she's talking about all the good things that British government has delivered to the world by liberating various nations. And the question is, when you say liberating various nations, how come you forget about the war crimes committed by the British government in various wars that have happened in the past? Look at Africa. Look at even the pre-partition India. When the British colonies invaded India, what did they do? The war crimes of Winston Churchill. Everybody knows about what happened. Everybody knows that millions of people died. Millions of innocent civilians were killed in the process of getting this imperialism reinstated in the rest of the world. But is the world so stupid right now? We are not stupid. People are not stupid. People have knowledge. People are informed. People know what's going on. They will not accept any kind of bullshit from any of the government leaders anymore. They will not allow revision of Iraq. They will not allow revision of Afghanistan. I want to talk about Afghanistan as well. Why? Because Afghan forces just a few hours ago, in the last 48 hours, Afghan forces attacked Pakistan out of the blue. And nobody seems to care about that. Another war ready to erupt between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Why? To profit the military-industrial complex. Why? Because US still wants to keep its forceful occupation of the government of Kabul, when the people of Afghanistan have revolted against this forceful occupation. You cannot expect that you will go to a foreign land, you will invade that foreign land, you will get rid of that current regime, you will get your dummy, your new leader in place of that current regime, and expect the people of that country to accept that dummy of yours as their leader in the name of democracy. Because this is not democracy. Afghanistan is not a democratic country, because Ghani and his regime, they are your dummies. They are not democratic. And even in the upcoming elections, you have promised Ghani another term, another tenure, on the basis that Ghani gets KPK and gets Waziristan, gets FATA annexed with Afghanistan. Or in other words, divides and disrupts the sovereignty of Pakistan, destabilizes Pakistan. This is now not how you're going to be able to achieve anything now, because people know the truth. People want the truth. They do not want any more bullshit from any of the governments, no matter how powerful you are, no matter how strong you are, even if you have the best nuclear weapons in the world, the people are not going to be with you. We are talking about 8 billion people of this world who are not going to take any bullshit from any of the government leaders of US, of UK, of France, and the humanitarian leaders who are supposed to stop this kind of bullshit. I'm talking about Antonio Guterres from United Nations. I'm talking about Ken Roth from Human Rights Watch, and I'm talking about Amnesty International. who are supposed to do their job, who are supposed to stop this vicious cycle of invasion going into relapse and then into remission. Relapse, remission, again and again. Why? Because there are no checks and balances. The laws, the regulations that are supposed to be applied to everybody who violates these laws are only for the poor countries, are only for the developing countries. They are not for the rich and the wealthy. The rich and the wealthy countries, including the US, the NATO, they're exempted from any such regulation, from any such check and balance that was supposed to be done by the United Nations. And that is one of the main reasons why we keep on seeing these relapses of airstrikes, these relapses of invasions, the acute and chronic phenomenon of foreign invasions to benefit the military-industrial complex, to profit the military-industrial complex, the 1% elite who want to govern and dominate the rest of the world. But the 8 billion people are waking up and they refuse to take any kind of deceit, lies, matrix from the government leaders. So the government leaders have to decide whose side they want to be on. Do you want to be on the side of those who made a mess in our history, killing millions of people? I don't know if it's crusade, I don't know if it's war profits, I don't know if it's corporate driven wars, whatever the motive is. I know if there are 10 people, one person will have a corporate motive. A fanatic will have a crusade motive. That congregation of 10 people who are driving these invasions one after another will have each individual with his or her own motive. It does not matter what the motive is. What matters is what has been done should not be happening again. This is what matters. That history should not repeat itself. The last 70 years of forceful occupations, invasions, destabilizations, displacements, killings, the collateral damage, the drone damage, children are dying, all that stuff has to be. All that stuff has to be stopped, full stop. It has to end, period. That is the only way we will be able to achieve this. That is the only way we will have an earth for all our generations to be able to live on tomorrow. Because right now, at the pace, if you continue with your airstrikes, I think we are looking at evolution of another world war. We're going through a world war. This is the third world war. Since 9/11 happened, we have been seeing the World War III. Unfortunately, what we will see will be a pre-apocalyptic end of times. All it will need is one nuclear bomb from somewhere, maybe from space, to strike someone, somewhere. And that will be the end of everybody. So the government leaders have to decide whose side they would like to be on, the side of the masses or the side of the bullshit. It's a very simple decision. You don't need a PhD to make this decision. All you need is the common sense. Even if you don't have a conscience, even if you do not believe in humanity, even if you're a greedy asshole, all you need is common sense. Do you want to be on the side of the 8 billion people? Or do you want to be on the side of those who committed the worst bullshit in the history of mankind? Make your decision right now, because people are not fools. People know what kind of a mess you're up to again. And we're not going to take it.